maybe it's how it itself has influenced art in just, from the 1960s to now in 2007.
Well, considering that most movies come out today have some tie to a video game, it's reached its tipping point, if you will.
Yeah.
Okay, does anybody have some questions for Kyle about what he's doing, how he's pursuing, what he's learning?
It looks kind of, it's hard, like looking at, like the little, the virtual one, the one that you did, about that man walking in.
Oh, the second one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How did you do it? Like,
it's basically, let me just bring the video up real quick. So like with Second Life, it's all online, and it's, like I said, the company that created it's called Linden Labs, and basically they have these servers to create this virtual world, and getting an account on Second Life is totally free. And so when you go in, what they do is it's like they have their own currency and market. People actually make livings by creating stuff inside there, and then they have a currency which you can buy their own currency inside. And if you make enough, you can actually transpire their currency back into American currency. So I actually know one person out in Oklahoma. She creates clothes and wigs inside Second Life, and she pays her rent and buys food and everything just because of everything she's doing inside this virtual world. But they give you the tools to actually create structures, and they allow you to import audio and video, and so this all it is just me creating the box and the pillars and everything, and then you have to go through and actually you can import the video and you link the video to the structure. So they have a play button where I've been in there where people create their own movie theaters, and they have actually like old movies you can sit down with your avatar, which they call the characters in there, and actually watch the movies. So it's just.
But in this piece here, like when Rami's talking about having to use things like Final Cut, you're taking it to another level because you also have to learn how to use the tools that are inside Second Life to be able to create what it is that you see in your head. So how difficult was it? Because I played around with that and it just, forget it.
The actual that's the thing. A lot of people tell me like when they go into Second Life is like they try flying all this stuff and they just get sick. For me, I guess just being a gamer itself, it didn't really bother me. I picked up how to walk around and move around pretty fast.
But as far as building structures and
that, I'm still kind of. Like I said, we have students on campus who they're there for game and animation. They're modeling stuff in another program called Maya, and they're getting these down. They're creating bodies and and buildings and everything. And for me, just being that articulate, it's just kind of crazy. It's I don't catch on like that fast. But with creating the actual structures and knowing how to do the stuff, I had some friends give me tips, and that's not too hard. But if I was to go into more in depth, it's still taking me. That's what I'm saying. It's just a research and the progress. So.
But where do you spend most of your time? In the creative side, or playing around with the tools, trying to make your creative work?
I guess actually right now both, because it's.
But always at school, always.
Yeah. Always. But no, like I said, most of the time it's like I'm always working on my art because I'm trying to find new ways, and even then I'm working on videos. I'm trying to find ways to distribute them on the net. I just took part in another exhibition called Time Frame. It was basically a couple of artists from UTD and a few others. A friend of mine who just moved out to California. There's an online video chatting site called Seismic, which is basically you talk through video camera, and then basically you input your video into a timeline, and people can respond back to you. What was the 72-hour exhibition where basically 8 of us as artists were in one timeline. We would all give different pieces of artwork, and then people watching it could either respond back or maybe make pieces that correlated with it. And so that gave me, that made me realize, maybe look at different ways to import my art, because one of the things that it's really hard right now is because the videos I do, I'm changing each frame by frame, and so since I get so much detail, when I try to compress it for like YouTube viewership, it just distorts it even more, so you can't watch it. So I have to, if I put anything online, I have to shorten it to like 30 seconds to even keep slight detail. And people told me on Seismic, why don't you just do it at 30 seconds, but just do one after another. And so that actually may be one way I started distributing some of my art out there to people. It's just kind of like, usually I keep all my videos about 3-minute intervals, and so I might just do it 30 seconds, import the next part, that way people can actually go through and watch the whole thing.
Okay. Questions? Two questions. Romy?
She was first.
Okay, go for it.
Well, first of all, I really liked Green. I thought that was outstanding.
Thank you.
But I'm sure you get this question a lot. Why is it that you want your work to be called painting rather than video? Obviously it's art, well, but you're not using paint, you're using video. There is a tradition.
Well, no, but that's why I use video painting. I'm not just calling it painting, but
right. But there is a tradition, obviously, of experimental film and video, and of art film and video that's completely non-narrative, like this is. And I'm sure you draw on that tradition. But do you think there's a stigma to it such that you don't want that label?
I guess what I'm trying to say is I don't want it to just be film. It's like, you know, it's like when you look down into film, you have your subgenres. You have documentary, you have action, you have horror, you have, and just that, and it's like, but they're all film. And I do realize that my video paintings are film in itself, but I don't think they're just film. I view them because, whereas the painting, what I call the video paintings, granted I'm not using a paintbrush or, you know, or paint on a canvas, but I'm still using the tools to actually, you know, create the, you know, the designs and the colors inside. So in a form or fashion, I'm still, even though it's all computer based, I'm still creating in my mind a painting itself that's continually moving.
What distinguishes your work from someone like Brackage and Stan Brackage, you know, the doctor, which, I mean, from a formal or visual perspective, I mean, it's not at all similar to yours. But it functions in almost exactly the same way. I mean, we call it avant-garde.
Yeah. It's hard to say. I mean, you're obviously creating using very different methods, but from the artist perspective, the distinction is not as strong. Well, and that's one of the things that, like, you know, and that's one of the things that my professors keep telling me, and I've learned over the last couple of years as I've been doing my art, is that's just one argument that I have to kind of, it's like, when I first did it, we have a video artist on campus who has his background trained in film, and he doesn't believe that you can have that. And that's where I guess it's just one of these things that I'm in my mind, it's like I have a defined way of how I view it and what I think of it. That's why I take it. So it's something that, like, you know, I mean, it's not to say anybody who says differently is wrong, but it's just my argument that I'm going to have to keep, you know, taking forward.
I mean, I can understand why your own perspective is kind of important for you to be able to continue to generate the work. But you know, for example, we call Rauschenberg's stuff combines, despite the fact that any other time we would call it sculpture.
Yeah.
He called it something else. So.
Well, yeah, and I've sat in a couple art classes I've been in. We had a friend of mine who's a painter, and basically he does a style where it is almost sculpture, but he has the same thing where basically somebody made, and I understand what the person who said that, you know, she said that this could almost be seen as sculpture, because there are some artists who almost do a blend of painting and sculpture together, but in his mind he was very definite. This is not sculpture. This is just painting. Yeah. And that, I guess that's just the whole thing. It's just
It's a creative perspective.
Yeah, and I'm not going to say that, you know, this isn't film. I do believe it's film, and I'm trying to create stuff to actually put into film festivals. It's just, but it's just in my mind, this isn't, you know, it's not to say that this can only be labeled one thing. It's in my mind, I guess it's just, this is another genre that in my mind, this is what I'm defining. And there are others that, you know, I think that it's happening that way. Even other artists in New York, I've done research, are actually saying, you know, there are different styles of video art that are taking different directions. This is just what I label it. You know, somebody might call it something different, but this is just.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. Is I think that it falls in that same category.
Yeah. No, it does. It does very much.
Artists sort of defining their work from the. Yeah.
And I think in some ways, if you don't do that, it's just, you know, you're going to be and I may be wrong. People may disagree with me on this one, but if you don't kind of start to break open from certain areas, you're left with just. I think when people kind of try to define their own styles, what helps to make art even continuously grow. And if you don't do that, then you're going to be stuck with just the same stuff all the time.
I certainly see what you're saying. I mean, I've actually referred to Origin of the Milky Way as a poem rather than a film. So
and I can definitely see that too. But even when it comes back down to it, our stuff is still, you know, video or film, just as the genre itself. But it's like I don't want to just have that. It's like I think it's a certain direction where I'm working towards, and this is what I call that. So.
Okay, we're gonna. First of all, we'll have a few minutes to carry on the discussion, but what we've got now is something that's completely on the opposite end of the spectrum. I don't even know if you would call what we would call it.
I wouldn't call it art.
It's applied. It's applied art. It's you know, Mike's been working on a project where he's been working with artists about ways to get their name and notoriety out there using film and using the different new media tools that we have access to. We're not living in a world anymore of just text. So I'll let you, he's working with a local band, and he's created something called the music video calling card, I think.
Yes.
And so he's trying to figure out a way to, you know, help the artists to make this cost effective, but also to actually make some money himself, which is nice. Yeah. It's always good.
There are rewards for waiting.
And so I think this is still somewhat of a work in progress.
It is.
We'll see how it goes.
And I need Romy to see this.